Okay, welcome everybody. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge with respect the Coast Salish lands, whose traditional lands and waterways we're practicing on today. As many of you will know, these hills around here were sacred territory for the Wasanich peoples. They appear in their creation stories as a story of the creator of landing on Cordova Bay and throwing pebbles, and these hills are the pebbles of the stories. And also the interconnection of the land and the environment and the beings that live on it is integral to the worldview of the Indigenous people. So it's an honour to be working on this land. So I'm going to start with a little story about a group of nature facilitators who, of course, want to be together to work and share their skills on this very special land that they'd been gifted. But unfortunately, as we all know, there's been a deadly virus on the planet. This is where my little story starts sounding like a crazy fairy story, but of course it's all true. We're living in the middle of a strange fairy story. So we've all had to meet through this strange, unreliable magic of the internet. But today, of course, we've been allowed to work together and come back together on this beautiful land and use nature mindfulness as a way to orientate ourselves back into this piece of property and land that we use to help others share. So this is our first inquiry as we sit here. How do you as an individual land yourself in a landscape? And we all have experience of this. If you think about perhaps places that you've been on holiday a lot when you were a child, or how you orientate yourself to a new place, if you land in a new city, for example, or a new ocean or mountain. How is it that you orientate yourself to that place, to really feel like you are in that place, rather than still thinking about, the fact that you've lost your luggage, or the fact that you're not sure where you're going to eat tonight, or any of those kind of peripheral anxieties. And when we did this exercise with the group of people that I'm training with, and came up with all kinds of ways that people orientate themselves to a landscape. It may be just you need to sleep there one night. It may be that you go for a long walk. It may be that you do some yoga. Some people like to do some kind of ritual to arrive in a place. So there's many ways to tune into the energies of a place and to settle your energies when you're in a place. And that's kind of one of the inquiries, like I said, that I wanted us to think about today. How do you do that? How do you do that? Some people need to cook a meal, to really feel like they've arrived in a place. Some people like to have a vantage point, go and be somewhere where they can look around, get some sense of orientation. Some people like to kind of root in the rocks. If you think about when you're a kid, you want to kind of go on the rocks and look at the things in the rock pool, the creatures in the rock pools, and get feel the breeze as we do now, sitting here in the roundhouse. Some people like to, like I say, ritual, like to ask permission, their permission to be on the land, their permission to participate in the environment. So it's important for yourselves to know how you tune in, using your senses, into the place that you're working in. And this is, in nature meditation, we return to the sensory information as one of the kind of raft of meditation. Always return to the senses, returning to what you can see, hear, smell. We just heard a raven over there. I just heard one. And what we see here, taste, touch, smell, is always local. It's always right here, right in front of us. And of course, in these COVID times, we've had to get very familiar with what's right here, our own backyards, maybe even just a balcony, if you live in an apartment. Our local parks, all our local areas have become so much more vital to us because we've had to understand that is what we have right in front of us, is what we have. So where are you right now? What place are you in right now? I'm not asking you to say anything, but just think about the first few words that come to your mind. Where are you? And just hold that for a minute. Because what I'm nudging towards here is that nature meditation helps us think about a place beyond a set of human coordinates, so beyond Prospect Lake or BC or Saanich perhaps, but considering the place as an ecosystem, as a bioregion, perhaps as the land before colonialism, and identifying with the place in an unmediated way, so not mediated by politics or history or boundaries. There's a crazy number of boundaries we have around here. So identifying with the place in an unmediated way through observation, attention, paying attention to where we are, and responsibility, intention to the local ecosystem and all of the life in it. And these two qualities, attention and intention, are crucial aspects of meditation. And both of them are supported by being in nature. And that's essentially what this practice works with. It works with paying attention to things right now, right in front of us, and also thinking about what our intentions are. So what your intentions are for working in this environment with participants, with other people. Like I said, these things are supported by nature. Nature, our attention is drawn by curiosity, by awe, beauty, majesty, simplicity, intricacy, all these beautiful qualities. And that reinforces our intention to connect and protect and preserve and share with people. So those two qualities are kind of the two essential elements of nature mindfulness. So where are we? Well, we're on an island off the north of a northern continent, facing north, I think, that way. I am anyway. Of course, we're all facing in different directions. In a mountainous, well-watered bioregion, biologically diverse, probably one of the most biologically diverse places in Canada. We're on the side of a valley surrounded by hills. And it's around here that was the most southern part of the glacial period on Vancouver Island. So the glaciers stopped somewhere around, close around here. It's a land where young people come to train and learn. And actually, historically, we know that the Saanich people would bring young warriors and young people here to learn and train and connect with their environment and the land. And of course, now that's done in a different way with different people. But it's the same land, it's a teaching land. Beavers live here, turtles live here. It's a watershed, it's fed by a beautiful pristine lake further up the valley. And already by describing, naming, orientating this land, the land has more aliveness, has more character, it becomes more vivid, and our presence becomes more alive. My sailing watch is beeping at me. The one thing I forgot to turn off to beep. So we can get a bit closer. We can go and touch the soil. We can look at the colours of the leaves. We can look at all this beautiful bark around us. We can look at the lichen that's growing on the bark. It's a sign of healthy air. We can look up through the roof of the roundhouse and see the trees and the sky and the light. We can look down to the water. We can understand that beyond this water, there are islands which create tides, which support the animal life, the clams and the oysters and the salmon and the predators and the whales. Even here, perhaps we can feel the presence of the whales if we start to connect closely and personally with the land. I'm actually going to turn that off because I'm recording the beeps as well. Apologies. So this connection with the local, this connection with being right here, right now, is the essence of this practice. And it's actually been one of the biggest gifts that's been given to me as I've been on my voyage into meditation in nature. When I first came to Canada from England, I was in awe of the big wild, the huge mountains and the rushing waterfalls and all the sort of picture ideas we get of a place. And of course, that's never very far away here. We are extremely fortunate that we can connect with the big wild. But getting to know this bioregion on a very local level, you become more familiar with the seasons, the inhabitants, and some of the secrets. And Meditating in place has helped me personally to find a way to land in Canada, both internally and externally, and to grow my awareness of self, place, planet together. Not just to connect with it, but to become entangled with it. Because really, when we really connect strongly with the land, we feel that we are just one of the beings that live here. We're just one of the beings in this ecosystem. We're not separated from it, we're connected to it, and we're entangled with it. And that's what attention and intention can do for us as humans, but also for the people that we work with, to enable them to understand that they too are part of the system, they too are part of the ecosystem, and they too belong. So it's a sort of belonging, connecting process by understanding how we land in a place. There was a poet called David Whyte who worked in the Galapagos, and he said, "In Galapagos, I began to realize that because I was in deeply attentive states hour after hour watching animals and birds and landscapes, I began to realize that my identity depended not on any beliefs I had, inherited beliefs, manufactured beliefs, but my identity actually depended on how much attention I was paying to things that were other than myself. And this attention, that as you deepen this intentionality and this attention, you broaden and deepen your own sense of presence." So that's kind of the goal, that we can broaden and deepen our sense of presence and connection with a place through paying attention to it. Okay. So that's nature practice. Attention, intention, the land, nature, poetry, stillness, silence. And for me, these tools are like a little precious spark, like the spark of fire that the First Nations used to carry with them, bundled up in moss, that allow me to move through and beyond conditioned habits, values, beliefs, and help me be the way that I want to be in the world. Mary Oliver, the poet, says it better than anybody. She says in her poem, Sometime, "Instructions for living a life. Pay attention. Be astonished. Tell about it."